All right. Hey guys, welcome to our first episode, our first podcast. We've been trying this for heck years to try to do this. I couldn't even keep track. Uh, the name of this podcast will be Youth Ministers or Ministers Too, or Youth Pastors or Pastors Too. But I don't know what we decided. It's not just me, it's my good buddy Jeremy. Why don't you tell them hi?
Hi.
You got to give them more than that.
Hey, glad you are tuning in. And yeah, like Jacob said, yeah, we have been counting the years. I think at least 5 years we've tried to put this together. And, life happens, but here we are. And it's what we wanted to do. And so we said 2021, we're going to do it, kind of like our big kayak trip. But you'll hear more about that later. Uh,
To be
anyways.
I got my wife on board on that one. So one
Oh.
step at a time, and we'll talk about obviously you'll hear that story later. Uh, so I thought we would this first episode just kind of talk about ourselves and what we're doing, and the purpose of the podcast. Without trying to hurt anybody's feelings, the reason we named the podcast is we were both we are both youth ministers. Jeremy's obviously have moved on to probably focus more on the pastor side, but he comes from the youth ministry side. Um, and I'm a current youth minister in a small town northeast of Austin, uh, Elgin, Cedar Valley Baptist Church, a tiny church that if you're not paying attention, you'll drive right past on 969 going north. And uh, yeah, that's where I'm at currently. And who knows what God has planned in the future. But I grew up in this area in the small town of Bastrop, just east of Austin. They have bumper stickers that say just east of weird, and it's getting weirder each year. So uh, let's see, I just got married in September to my wife that I've dated for about 5 years before then. Uh, and we are getting married again in about 3 weeks because our first wedding was during COVID. So uh, now we get to do a big formal type thing and all that stuff. So I've been a youth minister here for whew, what 5 years. I'll, well, I'll let you talk about that. But short story is that Jeremy was the youth minister here prior, uh, and then he kind of like promoted up to like temporary pastor. So I don't know. It was a weird situation. Uh, but I kind of stepped in as interim youth pastor, and then he moved on to his ministry somewhere else, and then uh, I moved right back. I mean, basically, just got the job title and the pay, I guess. Uh, so yeah, that's
There
a
you
little bit
go.
about myself. I have a dog that's 12, 13, 11, about to be 12 in November. An old boxer. She's old, so I don't have kids yet. So that's pretty much about me. Uh, Jeremy, you want to tell them about yourself?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've been doing ministry for, I guess, officially for probably 15 years, but probably unofficially like 20 years. Um, from media ministry to lights and sound to AV to camp ministry to youth pastoring. I've interim pastored. I've pastored.
You've done it all.
Is that? I
You were
mean,
even a janitor
uh,
at Bremond.
that's right. I've even
Yes.
cleaned a church or two. Yeah, and I think after many events there at Cedar Valley, we did some cleaning, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
Might have been some messy games here and there, but yeah, kind of as Jacob and I actually did ministry together at Highland Lakes Camp. Was it 8 years ago, ish?
Roughly.
I think it
It's
was
been it's been a little bit because it was yeah because I've been out of high school for like 11,
12. I left in May of 12. I think it was.
and I left in 11.
Yeah, so it was rather, yeah, so that's 10 years.
Wow.
2021 minus 11 is, so 10 years ago we were at Highland Lakes together. We had started on different staffs, but still, the heart and love for obviously camp ministry and student ministry, because that's kind of the primary focus. And then from there, I did some different things and pastored in different ways. I ended up as student pastor at Cedar Valley and had a blast there. and I was there about a year and a half, but God had different plans, and uh, I don't know. It's kind of interesting how God ushered it all in together. Um, Prior to me actually going to Cedar Valley, Jacob, if you don't mind me telling the story, do you?
Which one?
Well, kind of right before you were at Cedar Valley. Yeah, you don't mind. So
Okay,
basically,
yeah, go ahead.
basically, God had put it in such a way that Jacob was kind of not in a established church at that very moment.
Oh yeah, I was like a nomad between
Yeah,
churches.
a
Yeah.
nomad, and so I was like, "Hey, Jacob, I want you to go check this church out," because I started talking to him, and Jacob went and checked it out, and kind of got a lay of the land, and then he ended up coming alongside me and doing ministry together, and we just had a blast, and uh, and then we got to continue to have a blast because I got to go back and do camp with them and online camp, and then D now together. So just getting to be together. We love doing ministry together, like-minded, like-hearted, uh, not that similar looking, but close. Uh,
Yeah.
anyways, but I think obviously, we love Jesus, and our goal is to point people to Jesus, whether it's young, whether it's old, whether whatever, wherever they are, too. Because we both have jobs that are also outside of the church, and
Yeah.
so wherever we go, we're always talking about Jesus and pointing people to Jesus. I've been married for almost 14 years this month on
Wow.
March 10th. And Carrie and I met at Highland Lakes Camp. We have two boys, Landon and Logan, who are 11 and a half and 10 and a half. You got to say the half. You got to say the half.
Yeah.
Hmm. And we have one puppy dog. One puppy dog. And it's probably the best dog we ever had. So anyways, that's just a little bit about me. Um, I work in a secular work job right now. I'm not currently on staff at a church. I am the audiovisual guy at the Quarries campus, the Quarries Church, which is like a second campus of Hyde Park Baptist Church. So love doing that every Sunday.
Well, the funny story about me and Jeremy, how we met, obviously we met at Highland Lakes and we worked together in separate departments, like you said. He was the, actually, I really don't know what Jeremy did, other than he did run sound during camps. After that, I don't really know what he did. I know he set up some tables, maybe shampooed some carpets, but after that, I really don't know what they did. But we both grew up in the Bastrop area, but separately. I
I
knew his.
totally, I totally meant to say that, but I forgot about that.
Oh
So
well,
yeah,
I knew his brother from some ranch jobs. The only jobs out here are like ranching jobs, or you work at McDonald's or Walmart. And yeah, so I did the ranching jobs, and I somehow ran across his brother, but never really thought about it until I moved out to Highland Lakes and worked there for a while. And me and Jeremy, to be honest, weren't like hanging out every night at Highland Lakes. It wasn't
no.
until after uh, I left, and I think it's when you left to go to Bremond that we really actually started talking. And then
Oh yeah,
he gave me the call about the church, which I conveniently lived like what 4 or 5 miles down the road
just yeah.
that I passed on a daily basis from when I was doing my secular job in Austin. So uh, I think that shows that this has been a rolling ball since the first day. I still remember the first conversation I had with Jeremy on my first day at Highland Lakes, and uh, it was about what I wanted to do uh, and why I was coming to camp. And I was like, well, I really just want to do youth ministry, uh, but I think camp ministry is gonna be fun. And conveniently, I was changing a toilet at the time. I don't know if you remember this. Uh, it
I
was
don't.
my
Yeah, vaguely. I do. I vaguely remember. Yes.
I don't remember the old man's name, but he came from Chicago was it Chicago? But he would come every like spring, and then
Yeah,
he would go back up north during the summer. But
Mr. Don.
yeah, and his sweet wife,
Hmm.
he was sitting there telling me, I think I forgot what they called the toilets up there, but I was like, he was explaining it to me, and then then Jeremy walked up and was like, "Hey, new kid," and I was like, "Yeah." So that's how we kind of met, and then it kind of snowballed into what we're doing now. And the purpose of the podcast is it's kind of a joke. The name is kind of a joke. The youth pastors are pastors too, uh, because sometimes youth pastors get overlooked sometimes, and obviously we don't youth pastors don't do it for the attention and the glory from people. But it's easy to be frustrated and discouraged not to, get the same recognition as, your senior pastor. And so we thought the purpose of the podcast was to bring youth ministers from all over, mainly Texas, because that's where we're at, to kind of just so we can get to know them, not to tell them like they did some special story, like they pulled a baby out of a burning car or anything, but just to know, and if they did, that's awesome. But just to know that youth ministers are still out there, and we want to get to know everybody, because we experienced youth ministry and we know it, and we know the struggles, and we want to hear those struggles, so other youth ministers will also know that, hey, I'm going through the same thing. And so I think we have a format that's going to just like basically connect every youth minister, especially in the Texas area, to be able to work together and not separately. I think every time I do a Disciple Now or a camp, that our main goal is not to be secluded from the community through the walls of our church. And that's what God doesn't call us to do that. Just the church is just a building. We are supposed to impact our community. And I think this podcast will have an impact on the community of youth ministers in Texas. And you don't just have to be a youth minister, any minister. I think one of the things I thought about topics wise was youth ministers' wives and the impact they have, or even a pastor's wife, like Jeremy's wife. Like what does she go through as a wife of a pastor? That and really Jeremy's story is a unique one currently, because his ministry is currently online. And he does that on his own. He does 5:30 on Sundays if he doesn't take a nap. So
I've only missed one since I really restarted. Okay.
Yeah, we tried to start the M1615, and man, COVID has not been nice to us.
No.
Between figuring out live streaming, one of the jobs somehow I picked up as a youth minister was the production side of the live stream that we do at the church now, and that took a lot of time away from what we were trying to do online on Facebook, to have Facebook church and stuff. So
it's because it's always changing. I mean, something's always changing. There's always an update. There's always a patch. There's always something else you have to do. And so I think we're in a good spot now. And I think we're, I think we can dedicate the time and dedicate and like you said, building relationships, is so important, because we're in it together and not separate, right? We should all be on the same team moving forward. And I think encouragement, I recently had a conversation with a pastor, and he said some things to his leadership that he shouldn't have said. And I just said, look, when you feel like you need to say those things, you call me. You don't call your boss man, you call me. And that's what we need to be. We need to be together, and you need to be able to pick that phone up and call somebody in another town. That way you can say things that you don't need to say to your people. And I think that's so important. I think that's what one of our goals also for pastors. Youth pastors are pastors too, because we all have the similar heart that God designed that pastor's heart in us. But sometimes we just need to talk.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to basically just have conversations. Just one, like I said, to understand everybody that we're all going through it. Two, sometimes you just need to talk. I think I won't go into details about our conversation last week that turned into like 2 hours. Sometimes you just have to talk to figure things out. And and I mean, that's just the best way to do it. And sometimes you just need someone there to listen and not really give too much feedback, because sometimes that can be frustrating, but to listen. And if you know somebody that's willing to come onto our podcast that is in youth ministry, or just a music ministry in general, like even the production side or the music side, I don't know what you call that, worship, I guess. Yeah, sorry,
I think they're worship pastors.
Let us know. We would like to have them on. Everything will obviously be via Zoom because uh, COVID's still happening. I don't really know, but uh, I do. How much time we got left?
From a time point stance, we got about 6 minutes, don't you think? We don't want to,
Okay.
because these are youth pastors we're talking to. They might have checked out 5 minutes ago. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, when we get ready for Wednesday nights and even Sunday mornings, we have about a 12-minute window before we lose a student. So obviously we're used to that. I sometimes when I preach on Sunday mornings, I'll get up there for 20 minutes and everybody's like, man, thank you. We can go get in line for lunch because you got to beat the Methodists there because they are fast out. So
Yeah.
The two things I think we would end every podcast with is the two questions I was thinking. The first question would be, what is the funniest story or that you had in ministry? So Jeremy, what is your funniest story or the craziest story rather in ministry that you experienced?
Oh my goodness. Craziest ministry story? Oh man, where do I start? Oh, sheesh.
I can give you an example of the one that I thought about when I was like, how would we end these podcasts? And I was like, two questions. So I wasn't really, I guess technically I was in like the pregame of my ministry and I was in high school. And every summer I volunteered at this children's camp, church camp that my church put on every year. And I was a group leader. It was my senior year in high school. I was just, ready to go, move on with life. But I know I had to finish my high school career type thing doing kids camp. That's what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I think it was the last night. And we had spaghetti night and all the kids ate spaghettis. And then uh, I had all I don't know what age they were. They might have been like second graders at the time. And one of them said, I just don't feel good. So the camp nurse said, hey, just put him in his bed and we'll go. Last night is always this big pool party. So she was like, put the kid to bed, go to the pool party, and then come back. So we did all that. And as I was walking back through the door, this kid rolled over to his side and threw up all over the wall. He was on the top bunk and just threw up on the top, like all over the wall. And it was spaghetti night. So it was just this big red fountain going down the wall. Probably had like what do you say, a 6-foot spread all the way down the wall. It until this day, that's been like 15, 20 years since that's happened. And I still think of every time I eat spaghetti, I'm like, oh, this kid ruined my night. Because then as a leader, you had to take the beds out and had to clean the wall, had to make sure he got sent home and that no other kids were getting sick. And then I was worried I was going to get a stomach bug or something, man. But I mean, I have hundreds of stories that we could go through, but that's the one that sticks out.
And as obviously I thought of my story, and I think if we end like this every time, I thought of like at least five. But I was running sound at Highland Lakes Camp, and they used to do this segment in worship where they would do like a worship song or two, and then they would invite one of the summer missions team up. Okay, and that's
Yeah.
just the college students that go out there and volunteer. There's about 50 of them, and they do everything, and it's a valuable resource not only for the camp but also for that student. I think it changes lives. Uh, it's been changing lives for the last 20 something years that they've been doing it at Highland Lakes Camp. Well, it was a unique situation where we had an international student on staff, and he got up and he started saying some stuff that was off the wall. I mean, not biblical, not Jesus centered, not the students need to be hearing it. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about 800 students at least. And this guy's just going off, right? He's going off. And this has never ever hit the sound of public only one time. And the assistant director, she stood up And when she stands up, everybody's like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
And she stood behind me, and she's like, "You get ready to get off the stage when I tell you to." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." And sure enough, we had to take some steps. We basically muted him and kind of ushered him off stage because I don't even know what got into him that night, but it was the craziest kind of audio visual thing that I had dealt with at one point. And
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty fun. Pretty
So
fun.
the last question would be, what is the last song you've listened to voluntarily, like on your Spotify or your Apple iTunes or uh, anything that you purposely seeked out to listen to?
Well, David Crowder's "Good God Almighty." Um,
Oh yeah,
I love,
that's a really good song. Like
yeah,
at first I was like, but then
yeah.
you have that what's the backup, the Maverick City choir or whatever.
Oh yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're in the
yeah,
background.
like man, that's really good. So
I'll be honest, the title threw me at first, because, but you listen to that song and the words, and yes, he is good, and he is God, and he is Almighty, and it just, man, good stuff, good song.
yeah, so the song we put I got the set list for. Oh, if you did, I guess we haven't mentioned it. My Disciple Now is actually this weekend, like 2 days from now. So that's what I've been working on. Hopefully you can't see too much in my office because I'm old fashioned and everything is written out by hand and not typed up. And then so I have these yellow notepads everywhere with like notes and all that stuff. But um, anyways, the the band sent me the set list for the whole weekend, and something I try to do uh, leading up to events like youth camp or DNOW or just any specific things. I try to make the playlist to put on Spotify for the
Mm.
students to listen to leading up to the weekend. And the last time I listened to, and I don't know the song very well yet, but it's called "Getting Ready" by Maverick City. Um, and I'm getting apparently it's a good song, but I haven't really like broke it down yet. But that's the last song I purposely seeked out because I saw it on the list that they're playing this weekend. So,
Getting ready. We'll have to check it out then.
well, if you would like to listen to the playlist, it's called "Hands of Love Disciple Now 2021." So uh,
Spotify.
on Spotify, and I'll probably be putting that link out on our YouTube Rise Student Ministry Facebook page tonight. So uh, I think that's it. Our first episode. It's short, but it's to the point and kind of open up to see where we're going with this in the future. So
Yeah,
hopefully we can at least do one a week, and then we'll see what happens after that.
that's the working plan, and I would assume we would post this on our new Facebook page, right?
Yeah,
Pastors, youth pastors or pastors too, Facebook page. Be looking for that. And
yeah. Just don't hold it against us because both of us have. This is probably one tech side thing that we haven't done is the podcast and side of things. Video, oh, we're good on that, but
all day.
podcasts, I guess Jeremy's gonna be figuring that one out.
We'll take care. We'll take care. It's all good.
So, uh, yeah, I don't know how do we end this? Like, do leave a message or comment to how we can be praying for your ministry and or you personally? Then we definitely know that we will be praying for you.
Yes.
So,
If you want to
uh,
call and vent, call and vent to us, message us, whatever. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
yeah, I'm not gonna put my phone number out for everybody to see. But if you need someone to yell at us before you yell at your preacher
There you go. There
or
you go.
the personnel committee.
Anybody
Yeah,
that's
anybody.
related
Just
to the
yell at us
church.
first.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I guess we'll see you next week with hopefully a guest that would like to join us. And then eventually we'll have other guests and wives join us and see what happens with that. So, well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
all right. Well,
Let's do it again next week.
All right.
All right.